Which Girl Season 2.
A few years passed after Evelyn disappeared from the hut and the fog dissipated. The village gradually formed about fear, and life seemed ordinary. But the night sky was still hiding behind thick fogs, and those who often went out into the forest felt the cold breath of darkness that did not leave them. One evening, a girl named Claire, who had recently moved into the village, felt restless. She lived near the old forest where Evelyn's hut used to stand, and something whispered her name in the air. At first, the girl thought it was just the wind, but the whisper was repeated every night, stronger and colder. "Evelyn," whispered a voice that sounded both near and far away. Claire didn't know the story of the witch girl, but the feeling of anxiety pierced her bones. That same evening, when the moon appeared over the forest, a green ray of light flashed on the outskirts of the village. Claire ran there and saw a door that had never been there before. They stood alone in the middle of the forest, as if inviting her to come in. Her legs walked by themselves, and her heart beat faster. When she opened the door, the forest around her disappeared, and a familiar face appeared in her eyes, Evelyn, but already different. Her gaze was now cold and domineering, and the shadows around moved by themselves. "Hi, Claire," Evelyn said. "You came on time. The second season begins, and now you will witness that even courage is sometimes not enough." And the green light spilled through the forest, filling everything around. The shadows came to life, and the first lesson of the second season began. Evelyn's fear and power returned, but now she had even more power. The power that people began to forget the lessons of the past. Claire stood in the middle of the forest, and Evelyn's green light enveloped everything around, turning familiar trees into terrifying silhouettes. She felt the shadows slowly entangle her legs, trying to pull into the ground. But Claire did not retreat. "I'm not afraid," she whispered to herself, remembering the words of old legends that her grandmother once told her. Evelyn smiled, a cold smile that cut her heart. "Do you think fear is only for the weak?" "No, Claire. Fear is power, and I feed on it." The shadows began to take shape, bizarre faces, hands stretching out of the darkness. Claire felt her heart pounding in her chest, but she restrained herself. She remembered the old amulet she found in her grandmother's casket, a small stone that glows with white light. Claire lifted it above her head, and the light broke through the fog, driving away the shadows for several meters. "Do you think this will help?" Evelyn's voice echoed right in the girl's head. "Do you think you're stronger than me?" Suddenly, the shadows screamed at the same time, as if in pain, and began to retreat. Claire realized that Evelyn's fear was fueled by people, and if she did not allow herself to be afraid, the power of the sorceress would weaken. Claire's heart was beating fast, but she took a deep breath and said, "I'm not afraid." For a moment, the forest around lit up with white light, the shadows disappeared, and Evelyn trembled. She had never felt such opposition. But there was a sparkle in her eyes. It was a challenge. She hasn't lost yet, it was only the first battle of the second season. "Okay, Claire," Evelyn whispered, "you're strong, but the second season is just beginning. And I'll come back stronger." Claire was left alone in the foggy forest, holding the amulet, but realizing that there were still many nights and trials ahead before she could defeat Evelyn. Night fell over the village, and the fog, thick as liquid syrup, filled all the streets. Claire sat in her room, trying to figure out what had happened in the woods. The amulet was still glowing with a faint white light, but the girl knew, light alone would not be enough. Evelyn is still alive, and she is already preparing to regain her power over the people. Meanwhile, Evelyn appeared in the forest. She moved silently, her eyes burning green, and the shadows that accompanied her slowly stretched towards the village. She felt Claire's strength increasing, and this caused the witch to be strangely angry. "Do you think you can beat me?" Evelyn whispered in the dark. "Those who are brave will be my feeds." She went hunting. The peasants, who did not yet know the truth about the second season, did not understand why the fog suddenly became so thick and the streets were dangerous. Claire felt it first. The amulet began to flash brighter, signaling that Evelyn was approaching. "She's coming," Claire whispered, holding the amulet with both hands. When Evelyn set foot on the edge of the village, the shadows began to come to life, the trees moved, the fog thickened, and the shadows of the people sleeping in the houses rose like delicious ghosts. Claire understood. Now Evelyn can extract fear directly from people, and it will be much stronger than the previous meeting. The girl quickly grabbed the amulet and went out to meet Evelyn, saying the words that echoed in her head. "You won't take away their fear." "I'm not afraid." Evelyn laughed, but the laughter was sharp and dull. The shadows began to attack Claire, but the amulet tossed them back. Evelyn felt that her strength was weakening, but she didn't give up. The green ray from the sorceress's eyes broke through the fog and hit Claire, but the girl managed to raise the shield of light, and the beam crumbled into thousands of small sparks. "It's only the beginning of the second season, Claire," Evelyn whispered, stepping back a few meters, "and you'll still pay for your courage." Claire knew, now Evelyn's hunting has become much more dangerous, and to save the village, you will have to learn to use the power of the amulet for real. The third episode ended at this point, leaving the viewer in a suspense. Who will win, Evelyn or Claire? The next morning the village woke up in a strange silence. The leaves on the trees remained motionless, and even the birds did not sing. Claire knew it wasn't natural. Evelyn had already acted. The fog is even thicker, and its cold penetrated the houses, as if trying to conquer the residents themselves. Claire decided to act quickly. She gathered several brave friends, Liam, Mary, and John, who had already helped her in past episodes. Together they developed a plan: find the heart of the fog circle where Evelyn concentrates her strength and destroy it. "If we don't reach the heart," Claire said, "Evelyn will attack everyone, and fear will make her more powerful." They went to the forest, where the shadows began to attack them miles away from the heart. The trees came to life, the branches grabbed the arms and feet, and the faces of the past came out of the fog, the fears of each of the group. But Claire raised the amulet, and the white light pierced the darkness. "Don't be afraid," she shouted, and her allies realized that Evelyn's strength lived in fear. They gathered all their courage and moved forward. They finally reached the center of the fog circle. Evelyn stood there, her eyes burning with a bright green light, and the shadows around her rotating like living creatures. "Do you think you can defeat me?" Evelyn's voice sounded loudly, as if the whole forest was listening. "I live thanks to fear, and your fear is stronger than you think." Claire stepped forward. "We are not afraid." She raised the amulet above her head, and the light pierced Evelyn directly into her chest. The sorceress screamed, and the shadows began to disintegrate. But Evelyn didn't give up. Her strength began to concentrate in the green whirlpool that spread throughout the forest. "The second season has just begun," Evelyn whispered, and the green whirlwind disappeared in the air, leaving silence behind. "And we'll meet again." Claire and her allies were left standing among the scattered fog. They won for a short time, but knew, Evelyn's second season would be even more brutal, and the village was threatened again. Night fell on the village, and the fog again enveloped everything around, even thicker than before. Claire and her allies knew, this was Evelyn's last chance to stop before she finally conquered the village. "She's stronger than ever," Claire said, clutching the amulet in her hands. "But if we're together and not afraid, we have a chance." Evelyn appeared in the middle of the village, her eyes burning green, and shadows stretched across the streets like living snakes. She laughed, and her laughter echoed in people's minds, making them feel cold and fear at the same time. "Finally, brave men," Evelyn whispered. "Do you think you can stand up to me? Your fear is my strength." But Claire, Liam, Mary, and John stood firm. They combined their amulets, creating a circle of light in the middle of the square. The white light broke through the fog and began to dispel the shadows. Evelyn screamed in pain, but her green ray attacked Claire directly. Claire remembered everything she learned in the past episodes. Evelyn's strength lives on fear, and if people are not afraid, she weakens. She took a deep breath, gathered all her courage, and shouted. We are not afraid of you. The light of the amulet exploded with a bright stream, dispersing the fog and shadows. Evelyn screamed, her green ray broke into thousands of tiny sparks, and the sorceress retreated, her strength began to weaken. This is not the end. Evelyn whispered, her voice already trembling. I'll be back, and the second season is not over yet. And at that moment, she disappeared, leaving behind only a slight green glint. The fog dissipated, the village was breathing to the fullest, and Claire and her allies stood in the middle of the empty square, realizing that they had won, at least for now. The second season ended, but the legend of Evelyn remained, reminding, darkness can always return if people forget that courage is their most powerful weapon. Days passed after Claire and her allies defeated Evelyn in the final battle of the fifth series. It seemed that the village became calm again, but it was only a calm before a new storm. The fog, which dissipated after the battle, began to slowly return to the forest, and soft whispers were heard from it. Claire felt it first, the amulet lit up with a faint greenish light, warning of the danger. She's still here. Claire whispered. And now she's stronger than ever. The shadows began to move in the peasant courtyards, quietly and imperceptibly. The huts, which had previously seemed safe, now hid strange sounds, footsteps, breaths and Evelyn's whispers. People began to notice that the cattle disappeared, and the shadows behaved strangely during the day. Claire assembled a team of Liam, Mary, and John, and they went to the forest to find the source of Evelyn's new strength. There they noticed a huge green circle that glowed among the trees, like a portal. Evelyn stood inside, and her gaze was cold and merciless. Do you think you've defeated me? She said. You just postponed the inevitable. The second season is not over yet. Claire understood, now Evelyn has learned to use power not only from people's fear, but also from the shadows themselves. She became more cunning, and her attacks were much stronger. To survive, Claire will have to not only act boldly, but also understand how to turn darkness into an ally. We have to act together and be smarter than before, Claire said. This season of Evelyn will not end until we find her heart's strength. The series ended with the team stepping in a circle, and Evelyn's green energy whirls rose around them, promising a new battle and new dangers. The night enveloped the village in impenetrable darkness, and the green fog left over from the previous episode slowly drained down the streets. Claire and her team, Liam, Mary, and John, stood on the edge of the forest, preparing for the final battle of the season. We know she's more cunning and stronger than ever, Claire said, clutching the amulet. But we're ready. Together we can stop it. A big green whirl suddenly emerged in the middle of the forest, and Evelyn appeared on her traditional sublime platform with shadows. Her gaze was burning, and her voice sounded both quietly and deaf, as if a whole forest was saying it. Do you think you beat me? I am alive with your fear, and now it is doubled, because you know that I will return. Shadows began to come alive around, stretching into strange shapes. Hands, faces, snake silhouettes, looking for a weak spot in Claire's team. But Claire raised the amulet, and the bright white light scattered some of the shadows. Now we'll see if your shadows are really stronger than courage. Claire shouted. Evelyn rushed forward, her green beam attacking Claire's amulet, but the team joined forces to create a shield of light. The shadows began to disintegrate, but Evelyn did not give up, her strength increased with each passing moment. Very well. She whispered, but that's not the end. The series ended at a critical moment. Claire and Evelyn stood opposite each other, their eyes burning, and shadows and light merged into a chaotic whirloo. Each side knew, the next series will decide the fate of the village and finally show who will win in the second season. The forest was swallowed up by a thick fog that glowed with a green tint, a sign that Evelyn had used all her power. Claire and her team stood in front of the witch. Shadows reached dangerous heights, intertwining trees, houses and the ground under their feet. Do you think you can defeat me? Evelyn's voice sounded at the same time as the whole forest, making my heart tremble. My strength lives on fear, and your fears only add to my power. Claire took a deep breath, picked up the amulet, and said to everyone, "We are not afraid. And that makes us stronger than any darkness." Bright white light spilled from the amulet, starting to dispel the fog. Evelyn cast all her shadows forward, but Claire and the team held the shield of light. The green whirlpool broke through the shield, but it began to weaken. Evelyn could feel that her power was dissolving. "No. It's impossible," shouted the witch, her voice trembling. "I live with fear, and you are not afraid." Gathering the last part of courage, Claire shouted, "Together we are stronger." Liam, Mary, and John combined their amulets with Claire's amulet, and a stream of white light broke through Evelyn. The shadows began to disintegrate, as if they had never happened, and the green whirlpool disappeared. Evelyn screamed, and finally her form became transparent, and then disappeared completely, leaving behind only a slight green glow that quickly dissipated in the air. The fog dissipated, the village became light again, and the people who watched the battle from afar breathed a sigh of relief. Claire and the team realized they had won, and the second season ended. But the legend of Evelyn has remained. The courage of people is capable of defeating the dark, but if they forget the lessons of the past, Evelyn may return one day.